There's something that hits different when you do it yourself, when you have no partners, when you have no investors, when it's literally all on you to do the thing, it hits different. There's a level of empowerment, there's a level of responsibility that you take on that just for me personally is very fulfilling, not only just to be on that path, but also to see the successes stack up when you say, oh, this is actually working. That was all me because there was no one else that was driving this thing forward.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the show that inspires action and helps you to build your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Today's conversation is a powerful reminder that you don't need a big team, a big budget, or even business partners to build something that works. You just need to start, stay curious, and keep going. You're about to meet David Schafran. When this health tech founder traveled from Boston to Colombia, he was simply following his joy, spending a month immersed in Latin American culture and learning how to become a salsa dancer. He didn't go there to start a business, but that's exactly what happened. David ended up creating a profitable, passion-driven side hustle centered around his growing love of salsa. And today, it's his full-time work, which he runs remotely from New York. In this episode, you'll hear what it really takes to build a business from abroad, how he collaborates with influencers and local partners, and why starting small and intentionally building relationships were the keys to creating something great. Now, here to answer the question, how can I run a side hustle from another city or even another country? Here's my conversation with the founder of SomoLoco, David Schafran. Well, welcome, David.
Thank you. Good to be here.
What was your full-time job, and your side hustle could not have been more different? How does a health tech founder in New York City end up launching a side hustle dance business in Medellin, Colombia? Give us the Coles Notes version.
Yeah, totally. So I was living in Boston. I was running this health tech company called iNetra. It was an MIT spinout. It was very heady. It was based on science. The culture of MIT is also heady. And I found myself wanting an outlet that allowed me to express my joy, my flavorful side, my artistic side, outside of the stress and pressures and headiness of running a tech company.
Sure.
And so I had the opportunity in 2015 just to go dance salsa with a friend. She was a dancer, and she said, hey, I'm going to go salsa dancing. You want to come? I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? No problem. Yeah, let's go do that. And I was just struck by how joyous it was.
Yeah.
Like when you have those moments where a light bulb goes off and you're like, whoa, there's some truth here for me. I'm going to go follow that. Maybe not now, but at some point, because it resonates. It was one of those moments for me. And fast forward a few months later, and after several years of doing this company and doing the whole thing, I left the company. I had a breakup. I had a milestone birthday, and I was like, all right, I need to change things up. Like I really felt burnt out. It's pretty much
something's not working. Yeah.
Something's not working. And I was a rock climber, and I was riding a motorcycle. It was like a very like type A sharp type of person. Yeah. And I was like, I kind of need to soften it up. And I think salsa dancing is what I need. And so I started salsa dancing. This is in Boston, really in Cambridge, Mass. And it felt good, but I also knew that it just wasn't the vibe in Boston, right? Boston's great for a lot of things, but it wasn't, It didn't feel like the place for me to experience this emotion, to experience this culture in the way that I really wanted it, when I felt like I really needed it, to be honest with you.
Yes.
And I knew that going to Latin America was going to be the move. And fast forward to not too long after that, I finally left Boston. I was on this sabbatical mindset and landed in Colombia. And I knew that Colombia was a big place for salsa. I didn't really know exactly where to go, but a friend said, hey, Medellin is a very beautiful place. They say Medellin. And I was like, beautiful place, very livable, innovative, apparently. I was like, yeah, sure. Like, we can go there. A buddy of mine suggested it. He wanted to go too. So, okay, let's go there. And my whole intention was to dance for a month and really make salsa my own. Not just this idea of myself that I can dip my toe in, but I really want to just fully immerse myself in it through living it, through breathing it. So it became part of who I was. I wanted to change my internal state by dancing salsa and become a salsero. And
that Latin American culture really is different. You could be on a dance floor dancing salsa in Boston, and it's worlds apart than when you're in that vibe in that Latin American, the feeling of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just this idea that you're having fun once, then you forget about it. It's the idea that through living and breathing it, through repetition, you're actually able to internalize this way of being, internalize this Latin joy, this flavorful side, or they say sabor, this affectionate side. These are things that I felt like I was lacking for a bunch of years. And it nagged at me. Like I didn't feel good about that.
Right.
So I really wanted to have it. The idea was to do it for a month, and 1 month became 5 months of full-time dancing. And I basically just created my own program of doing private classes and doing group classes and social dancing with teachers and doing different types of cultural experiences. And it basically created this immersion for myself.
But during these 5 months, when you say you're creating the program, you were creating it for yourself by seeking out these cultural experiences and finding these teachers. Is that correct?
100%.
Okay.
I had literally zero intention of building a business out of this, creating it into anything. I was hyper focused on myself because for many years I felt I was hyper focused on the company and the impact of the company and all the stakeholders that we had to satisfy. I was not focusing on myself. This was the opposite. I was like, I'm doing this for myself. And the best way to do it is to do all the things, right? And doing all the things meant the private classes and the group classes and social dance teachers and living like the Colombians did in Medellin, Colombia. And it was profound, to be honest with you. Like I was tapping into emotions that I had desired to tap into for so many years.
Wow.
And as somebody who's been passionate about and actively worked and built in healthcare and very passionate about mental health as well as one of the themes within healthcare, it really struck me how powerful just dancing is compared to all the other things that we do and I had done for myself to feel better, ranging from talk therapy to plant medicine to meditation, all these things that our society says is like, these are the routes for you to feel good, or these are the routes for you to work on your mental health. Right. I'm not saying those are invalid, and I'm saying that it's not one size fits all. And for me, I needed something social. I needed something embodied. I needed something that was connecting with other people. And for me, salsa was perfect. And it was just such a beautiful experience that by the end of it, after 5 months of doing it, I was like, you know what? Number one, I don't want to lose this feeling and lose this connection.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be this idea of David Schafran that years in the future, like I'm back to doing health tech and I'm back to, my same old self.
Yes.
And I romanticized this past version of myself. I was like, no, that can't happen. So I wanted to stay connected to the feeling. And I also felt that because of what I said earlier, that our culture, Western culture, doesn't promote dance and salsa dancing as a route for wellness, for enlivenment, for all these beautiful things. Joy, right? That I've found something really special here. And I really should share this with other people. It's something that really ought to be shared with other people. I'm motivated by impact and motivated by helping people in this way. This is the theme of my work up until that point. So for me, it was very logical, given these two feelings, that I should start this thing called SomoLoco to share this experience with other people and also for me to stay connected. And that's how the whole thing started.
Wow. And that was that at about the 5-month point where you got this idea that, hey, I should be sharing this with people.
I think there was bubblings of it. I would say at 5 months, there was the formulation of the brand SomoLoco, which means...
that was my next question. Yeah. What does SomoLoco mean?
Well, if you speak Spanish, locos means we're crazy. And me being somebody who sometimes is irreverent to language, I changed the word to not somos, but somo, and not locos. Loco is basically a singular version of saying we're all one crazy, right? And the idea is that we're all unique in our own wonderful ways, and we should celebrate that. Be curious about your uniqueness and explore this curiosity through humor, through beauty, and through adventure. That is what SomoLoco is about. And there was a first version of it that was just organizing the local dance community and helping them find work outside the dance studios, who the dance studios paid them abysmally and still do. They get paid very little, and they're not given a lot of flexibility to pursue their artistic careers. And I was like, I'm an artist. I'm pro-artist. Let's help them not only have flexible careers, let's pay them great wages. And then let's also create an experience for people who can come in, do what I did for themselves versus just like a transactional, like one-off dance class, which is not creating the impact that you can have, and nor are you really learning that much.
And I was going to ask you a couple of things. This provided you such a transformational change. Was there any fear if you turned this into a business that somehow that might detract from the joy that you were receiving from it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think I was able, the answer is yes, a little bit of a concern, but the more I thought about it, it didn't become an issue. And here's why.
Okay.
What I love about dance is dancing. What I'm doing with SomoLoco is not dancing. I'm creating a business.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've learned over time to compartmentalize various aspects of my experience.
Yes.
Because they're all valid, just for different reasons, right? And so I'm very happy with doing this dance immersion company just for the sake of the impact,
yes,
to produce an income at this point, to be connected to that world. But if I want dance, I just go dance.
Got it.
I just go do it.
Yep. And to clarify then, SomoLoco, you're not just offering dance classes, you're offering much more than that.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very thoughtful experience that we've done for several years at this point, that's built for people to really come in and let go and explore this art form in a really profound, deep way.
Okay. And how do you do that? What would it look like for the person? For example, I love to dance. I love salsa. I've just dipped my toe into it and I see what you're offering. I land in Colombia. What would I experience above and beyond, say, that dance class?
We'd greet you at the airport. We'd take you to the accommodation that we took care of for you, that you'd be greeted by a bunch of other people who are from all around the world who are there to experience the same thing that you are. So you have people to share the experience with.
Yeah.
You have private one-on-one classes with two of the best teachers in the country who we paired with you based on what you told us in your intake. So it's very curated in that sense. Your
Nice.
style, your level, your goals, and we obviously are working with the best people. Those two individuals work with you daily, 3 hours a day, and are the same people that go social dancing with you a couple nights a week.
Oh, fun.
The rest of the community of people. So you're really entering into the social experience that, again, it's not just about the fun. It's also about you're receiving the behavior and the vibes that you were trying to live more of. So the more you're able to experience it, the more you get to live it yourself and awaken it in yourself. That's the kind of Jedi thing behind it. But at face value, it's just fun. It's just super fun, and you're going to learn a lot.
You think, hey, I've really got an idea here to share this joy I have, this experience, this culture with other people. What was your actual first step in creating this into a business?
The first step was a prototype version of what we do today,
Okay.
which was very low stakes, organizing the independent dance community and offering them the opportunity to get matched with people coming in from abroad who are already in Medellin for dance classes. And this was a necessary step to build eventually what SomoLoco is today, in order to build the operations, in order to test the relationships with the teachers, because the teachers are a big part of what we do.
Sure.
Obviously, I'd been dancing with them for years, so I had relationships and I knew who were the people that we'd want to work with. But ultimately, there's a difference being a dance student and being somebody who's, kind of on the business side of it. So it was important to build out this initial part on the operations and the team. And then from there, it was putting additional layers on it, right? Core parts of the product experience that I believe were most important.
Right.
Were things like the accommodation. Great. So who we're working with, where is it? What is it? What's the price point? Like just really basics of what is our product, and how do I very quickly assemble it and start testing it. And the testing it is a big part of it too, because theory only gets you so far. Sure. And that was inviting people out that were in my friend circles or in my social networks to come out on a trip and effectively pilot test these early versions of it. And each time someone came, we learned.
Yes.
And iterated and created a new version of it. Let's say version 1.3 the next time.
So these would be people from outside of Colombia.
Yeah, or even in the early days, there's people that were coming and they were spending a few months there, and there was aspects of it we were pilot testing. So it to the extent that we can separate elements and test each element and get good data, have a smart experiment that's giving us something that's actionable. That is something absolutely we did, because when there's too many variables, it's hard to know what's working.
Sure. And when you brought those groups down for the first time, how did you deal with the pricing at that in the early stages?
It was definitely underpriced given what we were doing, certainly compared to what we have today. It was definitely underpriced, thankfully. Yeah, it's been a few years at this point, so I'm trying to remember,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I know that I was looking at
Right.
other types of
Yeah. How did you go
adjacent
about pricing it?
experiences. And I think like for us, we're kind of like a retreat. So I was looking at other retreat businesses and what they
Okay.
were charging. And there wasn't not necessarily there wasn't really dance retreats at that time. Now you see a little bit more, but I was looking more at yoga retreats because that was already a thing, and clearly it's a big thing
Yes.
now. As an
Okay.
adjacent industry, that's like
Yep.
okay, they're doing something like that. We might be serving similar-ish type customers. So let me just ballpark
Okay.
it based off that, and
Yep. Yes. So you took a look at that from industry, and then in addition to that, I would imagine you took a look at the hard numbers and say, okay, based on say those yoga retreats or
yeah, of
other
course.
out
Certainly
there,
it needs to be a profitable business.
this is the
Otherwise,
price
like,
point
it's
that
not
we
a
could or
business.
should be
So,
charging.
yes, that
And then
I
did
shouldn't
you
take that for granted in our
double check
conversation.
that with,
Absolutely
okay,
look
here
at the hard
are our
costs.
hard
What
costs,
is our
so this is going to
projected
be our profit
margins?
margin. This
But I
makes
guess from
sense,
a pricing
or here's where we need
perspective,
to tweak it.
it's not like we're pricing based off of a margin on top of cost. That is not the way that I'm doing it. That
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe in that way of doing it because I think the sum of the parts is different than each individual part being added, right? There's
Okay.
1 + 1 = 5 in this scenario, right? It's all these things coming together is something unique. So I don't think like just the margin on top of the cost is really the approach, just particularly for our business. I'm not saying every business like that, but for us. And so for me, it was just there's market rate for adjacent things.
Got it.
Can we
Okay.
fit within that? Is it reasonable? Does this feel reasonable? What the market is valuing at things of this sort? And obviously the economics need to work on our side. And
Okay.
then if it does, like, great, we're good to go. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm.
No, we were paying them
Okay.
sometimes more than double than what they're normally getting. Yeah, no, it's a very different scenario.
Right. Because you mentioned that the dancers there typically aren't paid, but that's not the case with you.
Yeah, we have different arrangements actually with different
Okay.
folks, some people that are with us all the
And
time.
how
We
does
pay
that
them
work for them? Are
monthly,
you paying
and
them
there's other
by
people that
by
we
the
pay
hour or
more
per
on
the
almost like
commission of the employee? How does that work?
on a contractual level, like per experience or per customer and that sort. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a 6-figure business at this point. Have been for
Okay.
like a couple of years.
Your revenue numbers look like generally now?
We have a couple people that are
Okay.
effectively full time, and then we've got
How many
I'd say
people
probably
are? Is it just your
couple
self, or are
dozens
there
of people
other
that work
like
with us on
employees,
some
or
level,
do you
on
contract
some
most
capacity
most everything
in the
out?
business. Some of them are in Colombia and doing operations. We have other people involved in the business that are more on the administrative side and literally all over the world, right? We have people, I think, on 4 continents working with us.
Yeah.
I'd say
Excuse me. You're
what's
living
most
in New
important
York now,
is
right?
having people I trust. And
How do
thankfully,
you
it's not
manage
my
a
biggest
business that's
challenge
based
because I
thousands of miles away?
invested
Like, what's your
in
biggest challenge there?
creating
Are
the
you
right
in Colombia
relationships.
a lot,
This didn't
or?
happen by accident. I lived there for 3 years. I am a dancer. I know the people. I don't think
Yeah.
you could do this type of thing just by making a decision you'll do it and then all of a sudden making it happen because it's relationship driven, right? Business is so
Right.
relationship driven. And as a founder, I need to trust other people. I need to delegate for anything to work, particularly as you asked, as somebody who's not in Colombia, who's in New York City, who has an operation in Colombia. So, yeah, I never wanted to and never designed it that it would rely on me to be there for every single immersion. That was never how I thought about it. That wouldn't
Yeah.
work for me. I wanted the freedom to do other things, live where I want to live. And so for me, it was really important to find and empower other people to be part of it and to
Right.
take ownership
Yeah.
of the roles.
Medellin. Jean. Jean? Jean. Jean. Oh, Medellin. 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 Medellin.
No, we have,
I'm good at
I have
editing.
somebody for that. Absolutely.
Looks after things as they come updating. Still you're the point person. No, okay. Yeah, okay.
Now our immersion is really our core product. Anything
Is it
else we
mainly
do
then
on the side
your
is really
income
just
from? Is it
build
mainly
out
from
more
these
of a
immersive
funnel
retreats,
towards
or do you have other
that
income
business.
streams?
Once in a while, we've done local things in New York City as an example, or local classes or things of that sort. But it's not really meant to be a core product for us.
And have there been weeks there when and I say weeks because that's the minimum that you would have a guest through there, correct?
Mhm.
It's about a week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Has there been weeks there that you actually ran at a loss because something went wrong or there was an unexpected expense, particularly maybe in the early days?
Never, because we don't have any, we really don't have fixed costs. At this point, we have some people that work for us that we do have a commitment with, but that only became a reality once we started getting consistent volume,
Right.
where it was absolutely justified. But it's not like we have a retail store that we have to pay rent on
Yes.
or any costs like that if we didn't get a certain amount of people that we'd be on the hook. That's never how it worked. And that when you asked me earlier about employees and that type of thing, it's a big reason why it's one of the reasons, I should say it's the only reason, but it's one of the reasons why we work with people on more contract.
Yes.
Because it gives us flexibility to not have that guaranteed cost, and also gives flexibility to our dancers to be able to do other things, which is something that I personally value. I think it's a value add for our dancers to give them opportunities for other things.
So I'm just thinking about this now then, in terms of your startup costs, in terms of initial cash outlay, it would have been pretty minimal other than deposits for, facilities and hotels and that kind of thing.
Right. The investment was really on the brands and the marketing, which was obviously a whole thing. How do you get people to come on these immersions is a massive part of the business, and it's a whole thing. So
and
it wasn't
actually,
like there was no investment, but it was not on the product. It wasn't on the experience itself as much.
Yes.
That was certainly my time and energy beforehand. So I wouldn't say that there wasn't an investment. I spent years of my life there doing it, but that was just happened to become something I wanted to create a side project in a business about. It wasn't something that I decided to do intellectually. If I decided to do it as just a thing, I'd be like, okay, so I'm gonna have to go down there and I'm gonna spend months dancing in Colombia and get to know all these people. So that's actually a pretty significant investment for somebody who's not just personally interested in that.
Yes. Yeah, I love the way it evolved for you.
Yeah.
So how did you find those initially it was friends and family and people within your network. But then how did you grow it from there? Where are you finding clients?
Yeah, I mean, certainly evolved. We've been doing it for a few years now. We literally, pretty much every method you would think of, direct consumer marketing, from paid ads on social to organic social to word of mouth to third-party referrers to influencers and partnerships. Like, those are all ways that we currently are attracting customers. In the early days, paid ads was definitely the way that we did it. Obviously, like, word of mouth was not going to happen. No one knew about us. And doing partnerships and those types of things, I think, are challenging when you're getting started because no one knows who you are. You're not a brand yet.
Right.
So yeah, paid ads was the way to do it. And the success of that is based off of picking the right market, working with the right keywords, testing our brand and our landing pages. It's more of an art than a science because it's a black box in certain ways.
Yes.
But experimentation is everything, and just experimenting a lot. And once something starts working, like, okay, this is kind of weird. And also, frankly, like, in the beginning, I didn't have any goals per se. I wasn't like, I need to have X amount of customers, Y amount of revenue. Remember, it was a side thing. I was just like, I'm just happy to be able to do this. Yeah. And I'm glad that it's people are coming. Whoa, cool. Like, on top of like my core profession, I'm making this side thing. It just all felt like icing on the cake. I wasn't relying on it for my income. So it was cool. I was just like, oh, whatever's coming is coming in. Over time, more came in, and I knew that the more we're in the market, the more word of mouth will eventually get. Like, I just knew that at some point it would continue to just progress forward, because that's just how things work, right? Like, people,
and so many, like, across business in general.
Exactly. Like, it's I think the most important thing is that you're in the game and you're just doing the thing, right? If you're in the game, you're doing the thing, like eventually it will pick up through word of mouth. And I think word of mouth is such a sustainable, foundational marketing strategy because it's real. It's based off of what you're actually doing, people's actual experience.
Yes.
Versus you having to pay for advertisement, which is, you never know in the black box of paid ads, like how that's going to change, whether it's going to stop working one day.
Right.
If you're going to get a ton of competition and the dollars don't go as far. Whereas word of mouth is okay. Like people are vouching for you to people in their networks.
Yeah.
That's going to work.
And that's really exciting to witness and see. Like, it's one thing to pay for ads and see the results, but when it starts to be referral and word of mouth, I've seen that with the podcast. When we first started 3 years ago, nobody heard of Side Hustle Hero. So I was reaching out to essentially 100% of the guests. And then you see that change over time to people reaching out to us, say, hey, I want to be on your show and sharing episodes, that type of thing. And then, but you've got to stay in the game that long for that to happen. A lot of people stay in the game and you have to quit too early. Yeah.
They quit too early. And I just think like a tactic that's important on that path is to always share the testimonials, catalog and share the testimonials, because that gives credibility. I think establishing credibility is the most important thing from a sales and marketing perspective in the early days of a business. It's always important for the life of a company, but it's particularly important in the early days because you have none and you're asking people to trust you to pay money for something that you're offering. So I think it's just really important to execute that well in cataloging and sharing those reviews and those testimonials. And yes, you have to just keep on showing up. It's advice that I always got from my dad, and he's a business owner too. And it was just like, yeah, just showing up every day. That's it. Like you can have ups, you can have downs, but you just show up every day. If you show up every day and you're really in it, you'll make it work eventually. Yes. But you just got to be in the game. And making it work doesn't mean knocking your head against the wall when something's not working. It's being clear-eyed. Like, if things aren't working, great. You have to adjust. You have to be flexible. You have to be nimble. But you have to pay attention to what the market is telling you. It's all about the market. Listen to the market. The market's telling you they like this thing over here. Okay, if you could do that, go do that. Yep. They don't like what you're doing, probably not going to help you to keep on knocking your head against the wall forever.
Right. Absolutely. Be smart about it.
Yeah. But yes, data's good. We like real customer data, whether it's quantitative, if you could have a lot of data from things like ads or things of that sort, that's helpful. But qualitative interviews are super helpful. If you know who your customers are, or you think you know your customers are, find 3 people of that segment of that customer group and just interview them, open-ended questions, listen. And from that interview, you can infer, or directly they'll tell you, what they want, what works with your product, what doesn't work with your product or your idea. And to me, that's like literally the most valuable thing you do. Yes. It's a skill set that I think is incredibly important for anybody who's starting anything, whether it's a business or a project or whatever you call it. If you're doing something that's for other people and not just for yourself, it's really important to have those qualitative conversations, those interviews with people. And I think 3 is really enough.
Yeah. And especially if those 3 people are saying essentially the same thing, you need to change this, or this is not working, because you hear it one time, it's, oh, that can't be right. This is great. And then you hear it again and again. It's like, okay, maybe I need to listen to this.
100%. If you get the same thing said by 3 people, if 3 people are saying different things, okay, maybe you need to ask another 3 people, right? Like, maybe you don't know yet. But often what ends up being true is, more often than not, in my experience, is that people say the same things. And particularly if you're picking you've profiled the customer in a certain way, right? So if I say, hey, we're looking at women in their 50s who, either our kids are out of the house or they're just single again or something of that sort, right? It's okay. I'm just going to target that segment. They're probably going to tell me similar things about their needs, their desires, how our brand's coming off for them, how our storytelling comes off for them, what our experience would mean for them. If we give them a test experience, what that would be like and how they experience it. I think you get a lot of signal when you pick the right segment and make sure that the people that are coming in are that segment. That's just, that type of discernment is important, actually.
Any tips or ideas on how to get them to say yes? People are busy. They got stuff. You say, excuse me, you got a few minutes for the survey or this questionnaire or...
Yeah, I think 2 things. One is favors for people in my network, if that's possible. Yeah. Right? People who we build relationships with, tend to be generous to help you out, particularly when you're starting. So don't be afraid to ask for help and ask for their time.
But that's the number one piece, if I can just jump in, is actually reaching out to someone and not waiting for them to offer.
Yeah, a critical attribute of anybody who's entrepreneurial is being able to ask and potentially get a no. You got to get over it. It's just really not a big deal. I'm just putting it out there like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm passionate about it. Would love your help. And if they say no, it's okay.
Next.
No worries. Should we go? Should we go? You want to go get lunch next week and do other stuff? Like whatever, right? Like it's a personal relationship. If it's not a personal relationship, it's the same thing. It's, hey, I'm doing this thing. I'm passionate about it. I think favors, obviously, you're not going to ask for strangers. So if you have access to a community or a group or individuals who you don't have a relationship with, then incentives, cash incentives are pretty typical. Maybe that's a $20 or $50 Amazon gift card or something of that sort is typically the way that I've done it. And frankly, like I'll even do that for people that maybe I have a relationship with, but they're not like close friends. But people are busy. And even if they're in your network and in your community, look, it's their time. And so it's nice to be able to say, look, like I value your time. I want to give you this incentive. And they're more likely to say yes. And if this is important for your business, then you just have to budget it and just pay up.
Right. Nice. You mentioned influencers. We haven't really talked about that. Tell us as much as you're comfortable telling us about your relationship with some of them. How did that work?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously these days there's people with hundreds of thousands, millions, X numbers of followers on social media, and they have influence. They have influence in people's awareness about certain products. They have influence over people's purchasing decisions and a lot of other things in culture. Social media is massive, right? For us, it makes sense to partner with these influencers who have a similar vibe. Like for me, the brand alignment is important.
Yes.
That we just share an ethos and just a way. They don't need to be dancers, but they can be dancers. And the actual partnership can be various things, but it ranges from content to actually being a partner in the business, but not with SomoLoco as they're a partner, an equity partner in our business. More, let's say, on a trip, they'll come out on a trip and it'll be a co-branded, co-branded, co-marketing trip, and they have the opportunity to participate in that as well. Those are ways of working with influencers that obviously the most straightforward way is just content.
Yes.
Is content, because like any business, we need to get the word out about us.
Right.
So top of funnel is really important. We want to get more and more people coming in, and to leverage someone else's reach that they already have, and also their brand that brings credibility to us. Remember, credibility is everything. Building trust and having people ultimately say yes to what you're offering. It's a good move. Now, executing it is a whole other story, but I think on a high level, it's a good move.
And how did you reach out to, say, your first quote unquote influencer? Was it somebody that you were already following, or how did that come about? Or it didn't even have to be your first one, just a memorable one that would be a good example.
I mean, there's ones that are very forgettable. Okay. A lot of them are a lot of nothing, right? There's a lot of reps in this. There's a lot of grunt work. It's not like most people you reach out to, they're like, oh yeah, let's do it. Right. And if they do that, it's usually very transactional. It's very just give me money. And you're like, whoa, I don't even know you. You want me to give you money for what? Just to do a post? You want me to do a reel? You want me to pay you $2,000? Like, what? That doesn't make sense. Right. Not for what we're doing. Maybe it makes sense for somebody, but not for a small business. I do think that just making a note for your audience is that it's a lot of at-bats and a lot of outreach is going to be required to ultimately find the ones that work. I think
financially, as well as being on brand with you, being credible, and then just the monetary piece of it. You know, can we afford to even have this person? And it's
totally. Yeah. I think so in the early days, we paid for a platform that was one of these influencer aggregators. I think it's a total waste of time, total waste of money. And I feel like I've gotten more value out of using ChatGPT searches to kind of narrow down the segments that I want. I know the type of influencers you're looking for, so it's really important to know what you're looking for. Otherwise, that's the internet, right? It's like it could be anything, right? But
you'll put in those conditions, those parameters, and ChatGPT will actually give you the names of these people.
Yeah, it'll give me names. It'll give me more than that. It'll give me contact. It'll give me whatever variables I ask for, just so I can be educated going into it. And if I want to reach out to them, and then I've experimented working with a virtual assistant on these types of things.
Yes.
Didn't get a huge value out of that. I think virtual assistants are hit or miss. And particularly with these days with AI, it's also questionable, like how much you even need to use them. But for me, it's hard to fake authenticity. And
Yes.
when the relationship matters, like it's challenging. It's challenging. I would say this is what I'm saying. People's everything. If you have great people who you could afford to work with, it's amazing. But otherwise, you just got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not brainless work of like, who is a really good fit for us as a partner? Like, that's a really important question.
Yeah.
And how I describe that good fit. And then how do I reach out to them? And how do I make an arrangement that would work as a win-win for both of us? And the pricing, like how do I evaluate what I'm even willing to do, and does that even work? And
Right.
so there's a lot of cycles there that you have to go through to get to the point where you can have some success here. But I would say, like, of the influencers that we've worked with, what's very clear is that the ones that did work were just really excited by what we did, what we offered, and we really liked each other. And that's literally the only ones that have worked. And everything else didn't work, and they would never work because they weren't that excited about what we were doing. And so it didn't
Right.
really make sense. Like,
Yes.
particularly for us, like it's not like we're Coca-Cola, where it's like, yeah, you can film some thing with Coca-Cola and you pay an influencer for the time, and that's the end of it. What we're doing is kind of niche and very experiential. So it's less straightforward for somebody just to hack together a video. I'm not saying that can't work either for us. It's just not something that yet has been a thing that we've invested in and we've seen really good returns on. That doesn't mean it can't work. I think there's ways of making it work.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any plans for branching out into other dance hotspots? I'm thinking Buenos Aires, Uruguay. What do you think?
We already have an operation in Barcelona. It's early, but we already have done salsa and bachata immersions in Barcelona. And we already have people coming in the
Nice.
future as well. So it's a new location for us.
How did that come about?
I basically just asked our alum, like people who have been in our immersions, hey, if we were to go somewhere else,
Ah,
where should we go? And I just gave them a few options just so it was something they could actually select versus open-ended.
right.
But I had an other box too, just to see what people said. And Spain was the number one selection. So I was like, all right, we'll go to Spain. And I just knew that Barcelona is probably the best dance city in the country. So for me, there was logic in going to Barcelona.
Right.
And so, okay. So
what
I
did-
went out there.
Yeah, I
and
was going to
figured it
say,
out.
what did you do to get that one launched?
I had to go there and immerse myself again.
Okay.
Like literally. And,
Got it.
you know,
It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it.
I know I had to do a lot of dancing. Which again, you asked me, like, does it take the fun out of it doing the business? I was like, actually, the other way around.
Yeah.
If this is a normal business, I wouldn't be doing that. I'd be doing something that was much less enjoyable. But in this sense, I got to dance with people. That was my market research. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I get paid to do this and I can write it off.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. So yeah, it was just spending a few weeks out there and just doing all the things, like meeting all the people,
Yes.
dancing a lot, literally like every aspect of the immersion, just scoping it out, doing
Right.
it, talking to people, like.
But now you've got the successful template worked out that you can say, okay, I need to do these things once I'm on the ground in Spain.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right.
Nice.
That's right. Yeah.
What's been the most fulfilling part of this journey for you personally?
You know, the company I did before this one, and actually since I started this as a side thing, the other things that I've done as well. In the past, I had external investors, I had partners, and whenever you have external investors, whenever you have partners, you lean on them for different aspects of what you need to build, what you need to accomplish, particularly
Right.
your co-founders, right? Your other partners. And that allows you to grow, and that allows you to do things that you would never have been able to do yourself. And that's wonderful for what that is. There's something that hits different when you do it yourself, when you have no partners, when you have no investors, when it's literally all on you to do the thing, it hits different. There's a level of empowerment, there's a level of responsibility that you take on that just for me personally is very fulfilling, not only just to be on that path, but also to see the successes stack up when you say, oh, this is actually working. That was all me because there was no one else that was driving this thing forward. Like, yes, we work with people. Yes, the people involved, of course, they take a part in the success 100%. But ultimately, I'm responsible. I'm accountable for all of it. But honestly, I do want to say this, like, independent of the successes that have happened, just showing up every day with no guarantees into this kind of mystery of this, of what we're offering and continuing saying yes, there's something really profound about it for me. It's hard to describe. I would say the emotional experience is very grounding. It's very empowering. It forces me to be the best I can be because, again, when you have partners with other people, like you rely on them to do things.
Yes.
But when it's all on you, you can't really look anywhere else besides yourself.
And all the decision making is on you.
All the decision making, just managing my own emotions, managing the challenges of, again, when, it's not always hunky dory, particularly if you decide at some point to go from side hustle to its full-time hustle, that also hits very different. Side hustle is I still have something else paying my bills. That's cool.
Yeah.
A little much less pressure. Yeah. Once you decide to go in that side hustle and be like, no, this is full-time hustle. Oh, is this going to make me what I was making before?
Yeah.
Is this going to be successful at all? Is this just a road to nowhere? Am I just wasting my time? Am I wasting my life?
What was I
Am I a
thinking?
loser? Am I lovable? Like all the things that people think about. It's like
spirals down. Yeah.
It spirals down, and you either find a way of managing that and creating a positive relationship with your experience, or it'll tank you and it'll eat at you. And I think being able to engage with those thoughts and emotions in a positive way and getting on the other side of it is profound, because if you didn't go through the rough and tumble, you would never have gotten this place of clarity about what you're doing, about who you are.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be living this self that maybe you on a deeper level, like you feel like is more you or who you'd like to be.
Yes.
And I think it's just a matter of doing it, and then you get the benefits, independent of the material outcomes. Because again, the material outcomes go up and down. And if I got caught up every time in like when it goes down, I would drive myself crazy, right? Because it's not always, it's not like constantly, this week,
sure.
Whoa, what happened this week? Oh, the IRS came out, it's tax time. I'm like, oh,
damn,
I wasn't expecting to pay you that much. What? Things happen.
Yes.
People issues like this things happen, but it's just, there's something beautiful about just being on the path and showing up and having to be this person who I believe I am and want to be.
Nice. Because the financial, as you pointed out, the financial gain, ideally, that's a great benefit, but man, there's so many more benefits that come with starting and building that successful side hustle. What's been one of your biggest challenges in growing SomoLoco, whether that be from maybe a two-part, biggest challenge in general, and then specifically running it remotely?
I think one of the biggest challenges is making a decision about who we really are and who we're serving. Because in the early days, you don't know exactly, right? You're putting things out there and people are coming and people are buying, and okay, like they have a sense of who our customers, but there's a lot more people that we think could be our customers. So let's just keep on broadening.
Okay.
Right. And at some point, broadening dilutes you because you're too broad. But you're like, wait a second, I thought I needed to broaden to grow. It's a little counterintuitive to actually narrow again. And there's no blueprint, because sometimes broadening makes sense and sometimes narrowing makes sense. And I think that's the biggest challenge to growth, at least in the stage that we're at, right?
Right.
Like you can go from 0 to 1, however you define one, whether that's 5 figures, 6 figures, whatever it is. But at some point, there's a decision of who are we and what are we scaling exactly? Are we going vertical? Are we going horizontal? Who are we actually? And how do we scale, not just from a product perspective, but from a brand perspective? And certainly like marketing, it's okay, we figured out this channel, at least we thought we did.
Yeah.
What about this other channel?
Yeah.
Does this work? Do I have the money to invest in this channel? I don't have infinite money. So the other challenge is always going to be money. Like infinite money doesn't solve your problems, but if you know how to use it wisely, you can get to answers quicker. You could also hire people to help you. And I think that's also a challenge, and the decision is challenging because it defines a lot of, okay, where's the money coming from? Are you going to take external money? Are you going to get loans? Are you going to get equity? Are you going to bring on partners? Are you going to get a side job, a non-side hustle to fund your side hustle? So it becomes a thing, which is what people do when they have a full-time job and have a side hustle. They fund it through their full-time job. Like, these are constant questions about how to fund the growth because often it's like you can only go so far without capitalizing more money to take it even further. And so I think those two things about defining who you really are And then the cash to be able to invest, I think, are the two biggest challenges.
Okay. And how about running it remotely?
I think for me, running it remotely is more of a personal, and then it becomes a business issue because everything becomes a business issue when it starts personal. But it starts personal, and I'll say that because I enjoy being with people. I enjoy the IRL, the in-person experience. And so much of what I end up doing is behind a computer screen or behind the phone.
Yes.
And I just find that less appealing than being with people.
Right.
And I think that also is more challenging when trying to build relationships and get things done. But I'll caveat that with a massive caveat and saying, I also love the freedom of being anywhere. I love having the ability just to like zone into my work and not have to have meetings. And the fact that I don't have to do things all in person means I actually can do more because I can have a lot of asynchronous conversations, even lots of threads in parallel. So it's very beneficial. But the relational aspect is hard, and the emotional experience of kind of being a solo founder and being on a computer all the time, it's like sometimes it can be a drag. I love collaborating. I love working with people. I'm not really doing it when I'm at a cafe on my computer in New York City most of the time. It's like, what the hell? Yeah.
Right.
But,
Yep.
But the good news is I could change that to a degree, right? I can go to Colombia and spend time with our people. I can go on podcasts like yours and talk to people about it. I can choose to talk to our customers more and engage with them in community. And that ends up being good for the business anyway. So it's just finding ways to make it work versus just accepting, oh, it sucks and this is my reality. That is the antithetical perspective of being a founder of me after. It's like, I created this so I could have the freedom to do the things in the way I want to. Perfect. So if it's not working, great. I'll make it work. So what can I do? Well, I have to work within constraints. So the constraints are, I live in New York City because that's the bigger choice that I made. And my market's in Colombia and we have a global audience. So how do I do that? Oh, maybe I start working on building community through the WhatsApp groups and I invest more in engaging people in our community groups.
So you manage it that way. And honestly, it doesn't matter what job, industry, career a person goes into, how glamorous it sounds, there are those parts of it that we don't enjoy. It's just not who we are. But you suck it up and do it because of all the other benefits that it brings you.
Totally.
Got to remember that.
Agreed. I think there's two sides to being a founder. I think one side is glamorous. I think once you have freedom, you go to cool places, you meet cool people, you have flexibility to do whatever you want, and then you have the other side, which is just grunt work, like thankless grunt work. And I think being able to enjoy both is really useful. Because if you only are doing it for the glamour, like you're not going to make it because the grunt work is just part of it in a really daily experience type of way. And then the glory stuff, like, sure, it happens here and there. But like most of it's just like, if you get off on working hard and being your best self and also being successful and taking your job seriously, like, oh, it's a beautiful place, a beautiful way to do those things.
Yes, absolutely. So what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, David?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram. It's Dance SomoLoco and SomoLoco.com. That's SoMOLOCO.com.
Excellent. And make sure I will drop a link in the show notes for that.
Amazing.
What's your best tip to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dreams, particularly if it's a creative or a travel-based side hustle idea?
I will say it's such a profound question. Ultimately, I think it's around your own personal desires. If you see yourself as somebody that wants to pursue your own path, that you want autonomy, you want to live and die by your decisions, you want opportunity to have a lot of returns that you would never get working for a job, whatever your motivations are, because those are very personal for each person. But if you really resonate with the desire part of it, don't get caught up in all the things that could go wrong and the kind of questions that need to answer in the future. You'll figure those out, and you should plan for that. But you don't need all the answers to take the first step. There's always an off-ramp. There's always a way of getting out if it really came to that. You don't need to get caught up in step 5, 6, 10. Just take the first step and believe in your desires and you living the life that you want to live for yourself. And if that is real for you, then just start. Just go for it and take it every day at a time.
Yeah, excellent. And you will learn something regardless of the outcome, whether it's what you planned or not. There'll be lessons there.
That's for sure.
Thank you so much, David, for your time today and sharing your story and really inspiring us to start that side hustle, take that first step, and then when you get there, you'll see how to go further. And of course, thank you for being today's Side Hustle Hero.
Thanks, Joan.
So what turned David's joy into a thriving business? A few things stood out. First, following your joy can lead to unexpected and profitable opportunities. He didn't plan to start a business in Colombia, but by leaning into what lit him up, the idea naturally took shape. Second, you don't need a big budget or detailed business plan. I really tried my best to drive home that point in step 4 of my Smart Start guide, from idea to it's live in 7 steps. Don't overthink it, just hit the essentials. There are 8 of them that I list in the guide. For David, he started with a simple prototype, tested it with people in his network, and improved from there. And third, and this one's big too, relationships are everything. David spent time on the ground building trust with local dancers and partners before turning it into a business. This trust is what allows him to run SomoLoco remotely. If you want to build something sustainable, especially from afar, you got to invest in people, not just the process. So if you've got a creative or travel-based idea simmering, maybe this is your sign to take that first step, or salsa step, and see where it leads. But regardless of the focus of your side hustle idea, you'll want to grab a copy of my 28-page guide called Smart Start, from idea to it's live in 7 steps. It walks you through the core things to focus on, including a checklist of those 8 essentials that you actually need to launch. It's free for now at sidehustlehero.com, but not forever. Well, that's a wrap for today. If our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider showing your support by visiting sidehustlehero.com/support. That's where you can shoot me a virtual coffee. It's a real thing and a fun way to give the show a caffeinated thumbs up. Thank you so much. In the episode description, you'll find links to connect with David and SomoLoco, as well as the full show notes, which live at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start and grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.